it's fun to be in a situation where I have no idea what I'm getting into.
This season is really just to make sure that Trioed with Dr. Bates is grounded in a first just an understanding of why I chose to focus on my trio experience, how it's informed my own experiences and the choices that I made, and how we can like think about education. I want us to start from the beginning.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sandra Kato. I am originally from the west side of Chicago.
They say West Side is the best side, right?
I learned that hard work produces results. I learned that you are often underappreciated when you're doing the work until the work is done. I learned that you often don't miss a good thing until it's gone. I learned that making the tough and unpopular decision is the most difficult for being a boss. I learned that as long as your heart is in the right place, you must strive to help people see beyond what they might know. I learned that pulling people in leadership roles when they do not consider themselves a leader is what produces leadership. I learned that social probation is not a punishment from the world, but a solitude for peace, clarity, and focus. I learned the most valuable lesson that you will learn in life will often come with resistance. I learned to laugh in good times and bad, even though I did not know it at the time, but I was learning. Sandra Kato was born in Chicago, Illinois. She graduated from Bowen High School. After high school, she attended and received her bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Prior to returning to the University of Illinois, she served as the director of the Lewis University Upward Bound program for 7 years and returned to Illinois to become the director of the Upward Bound College Preparatory Academy for 11 years. Thank you for your parent mentorship. You are my first boss lady. And when you think you are not, you are appreciated. As you will see during our conversation in this episode of Trioed with Dr. Bates, I think this portion of my message on my DIY gratitude plaque is a good preview. All of these things are common sayings and lessons we learn over our lifetime. What Dr. Sandra Joy Kato teaches us is that lessons without examples can become unrealized. Dr. Sandra Kato holds a Ph.D. in Education, Organization, and Leadership, as well as a master's degree in clinical psychology. She is a qualified mental health therapist and an educational consultant. And as you can see, author of Fabulous at 50, Sensational at 60, A Guide to Aging Gracefully. Welcome to episode 2 with Dr. Sandra Kato.
Good folks grew up right across the street from Garfield Park, and as a consequence, we were right down the street from Providence St. Mill, literally one block, and then we were approximately 2.5 blocks from the famed conservatory. Um, we were one block from a beautiful gazebo and array of flowers. So for kicks, we would just say, "Hey, let's go look at the flowers," and we just walk around and look at them, or let's go to the conservatory. So it was very prudent on my mom's behalf. We were not able to purchase a house at that time, so she said, "My children will have the backyard. Um, they will have the park as their backyard." So she'd send us out to play. When she got ready for us, she used good old classical conditioning. She didn't lean out the window and, "Sandy, Bernie, Margie." She said, "Tell you what, I'm going to put this red book in the window. When you see the red, I want you to look up every now and then. For all intents and purposes, we were very obedient. Look up every now and then, and when you see the red book, come home. So we be playing and we look up. We be playing and we look up again and go, oh, I've got to go. Our friends would be like, what do you mean? We go, oh, and that was one of the conditions. You don't get to tell other people what the little book meant. Okay, that was our secret. We were like, trust me, I've got to go. Okay, I'd grab my little brother's hand because 9 times out of 10, if I was out there, he was, and we would come home. And when I got older, I realized, wow, that was classical conditioning. We became conditioned to respond to the red book, and that's how she, had us come home. But very, very simple, but good upbringing.
Isn't that like clinical language, right? I
It
wonder,
is.
like, did you understand that that's what your mom was doing?
Heck no.
Then,
Not
right.
until I took my
Yeah.
first psychology class and they explained that classical conditioning is when you condition something or someone to respond to something that was previously neutral. And previously it's the red typing book, okay? But it became mama's signal to get us to come home. Without her yelling out the window, okay? But mom was just super awesome, all that good stuff. But no, had no idea. I just knew that that was our little game.
That to me is a choice in parenting,
Mhm.
right? And what you're talking about, right? To instead of developing obedient children through fear, right?
Yeah.
You create circumstances under which that engages them, attracts them at that age and that level.
Now,
What did told your mother that that was the strategy to use with her kids? That was, I would guess, is different than most other parents at that time.
correct. Well, first of all, we need to definitely make sure your viewers understand that you have not read this book yet and you just hit something spot on. I
Okay.
talk about intentional parenting. And that's why the book is for all ages, even though it's called Fabulous at 50,
Mm-hmm.
Sensational at 60. It's for people who are parents. You see, 10 chapters are dedicated to lessons that I learned from mom,
Mm-hmm.
and 10 chapters are dedicated to lessons that I learned from dad,
Mm-hmm.
and they're totally different. However, the beginning of the book talks about just what you said. You should do things with an express purpose. Your parenting should be intentional because I want to develop within my children certain mores, ways of doing things, certain values. I contend that in order for you to feel fabulous at 50 and sensational at 60, um, you have to be grounded to the extent where you have a very positive relationship with God. That's what I determined very early on. Mom's first chapter is called Pray. Okay. Uh, One of Dad's chapters is Say It with a Card. When Dad became much more seasoned, particularly post 60, he would spend literally, Namika, because sometimes we'd be in the store with him, like an hour picking out the perfect card. Sometimes he may have had difficulty expressing, how he felt, except when he got older, he was real good at this. He'd tell us all the time, I love you. When we were younger, did not say it much. However, what I discovered from him is that he loved saying it with his cards. When he gave you a card, you knew that it came straight from his heart. So yes, you're correct. Intentional parenting should be a hallmark of any good, solid parent. I am doing this for the express purpose, just like you articulated it. You're gonna be a wonderful parent. I can't wait. Okay.
Well, what I would say is the reason why I'm able to connect that
Yeah.
for you, and it makes sense that we would start this and you would delve into your parents as I talk about your upbringing, because when I was a student with you,
Yeah.
when I was working with you, and as your friend, I know that your upbringing is the foundation for everything it is that makes you an educator in the world. I know that the lessons, the relationship that that your parents and parents instilled in you, and the relationship that you have with your brothers and sisters, probably, inform in a lot of ways the decisions that you made in Upper Bound, how you communicate, careers, etc. So it doesn't surprise me.
Sure. I mean, even the boat ride, the infamous boat rides that we would take.
My
No,
favorite.
no, they started at Lewis University.
Oh, okay.
Because I was shocked when I discovered that there were kids who lived right here in Joliet, not far from where we are right now, who had never been to Chicago. I was like, wait a minute, you don't mean that, right? Like, you got in your parents' car, and some folks would stop me right there and go, now you're assuming that there was a car. Okay.
That's the first assumption.
Okay. And so I was like, oh no, we will go to Chicago. There's no way. We're just 30 minutes from Chi, and you've not been. And we have wonderful colleges and universities right at our fingertips. You've not seen them. You've not been on U of I's campus or University of Chicago or Loyola's. So we worked some things out, and had some collaborations with some of the other Upward Bound programs.
What I understood early on in my experience in Trio, particularly Upper Bound,
Yeah.
was that I was even getting an experience that other young people in Champaign were not getting and taking advantage of simply even just going on campus.
Okay.
So when when I got older and started realizing that that is not just a symptom of like growing up in a small town.
Right.
That is a symptom of access.
Yes, it is. It's
Right.
access and exposure.
You grew up in Chicago and you knew that you had friends who were growing up in the city and weren't getting an opportunity to do other things, or you were growing up in the city and you weren't getting opportunities. So when you got an opportunity to give that to other people, you created all of these things.
It's more so that way.
Right?
Yeah, it was more so that I had wonderful siblings, and their friends took me under their wing as well. And I was a little bit of a nerd. The very first campus I went to was University of Illinois Chicago.
Okay.
My sister Linda was attending there, and I was like 13, and I was like, I am on a college campus. It was fascinating for me. So I was a bit of a nerd. I attended, actually, though, for high school, something that people don't know is that I attended 3 different high schools.
Oh,
My first year was at Mother Theodore Garin.
okay.
And after 1 year of being one of 5 black students at the school, I was like, I need a different experience. I told my parents I'll be the best student possible, save your private school money, and just let me go to a public school. That was during the racial awareness movement
Okay.
in the late 60s,
Okay.
early 70s.
Okay.
So my sophomore and part of my junior year, I attended school on the west side of Chicago, Austin. And it was a good experience until my parents bought that house on the south side. And oh my God, I was devastated. Come on, I was a junior in high school, and it was like, you've got to go. And I was, I remember getting straight A's and 1 C, and this one teacher called me up, and she was like, what happened? And I'm like, what do you mean what happened? I got a C. Remember those C meetings? Remember the C meetings? And I was like, is she kidding me? That helped me to develop um, the theory behind the C meetings, because we would say, Upward Bound would say, we don't want you to be associated with mediocrity. We want you to look at a C with disdain. We want you to not have a C be part of your repertoire. If you get a C, we're here to try and help you understand why you're only performing at a mediocre level. So we would meet with the student, the tutor, the parent, and the tutor, the student, the parent, and one of administration. You at one point had to sit in on those C meetings in the evenings as part of the Upward Bound staff, and they were about they only lasted 15 minutes, and their whole purpose was, what can we as a team do to help you like not get a C?
Yeah.
I'm worried about what I would say was, I felt a strong level of pressure that our young people feel when we're talking about things as if they are the ones that are solely responsible for why they're not doing well.
Well, now what we did was, by the virtue of the fact that all of us were sitting there in an evening when their parents got off from work, we were salaried, so we weren't getting the extra salary to stay around for 3 hours and do 15-minute segments with folks. We wanted to propel them to strive for A's and B's.
Yeah.
That's really where we were coming
So I wonder, how do we talk about what you're saying, which we both agree on?
from.
How do we talk about that now?
Yeah, I think we might, I think that if we sit down and work at it, we can get them to buy into. See, the whole thing is the child must buy into,
Right.
however you figure that part out,
Right.
they
Like,
must buy
yeah,
into
like
it.
this makes sense, and this, like, how, like, you can still look at some of the same kids and be, oh, that's my baby. Like, yeah, that comes from something.
Well, a lot of it is intrinsic. It's something that's intrinsic, and you're looking at, okay, well, think of McGregor. Okay. McGregor said that people were either, you have this mindset about workers, and you said people either love to come to work and they're like, yes, I'm here, and what will we accomplish today? And then you have the undermotivated people. You look at workers in one of two ways, okay? People really want to be here and they're self-motivated, and then they're the other people you have to nudge and push, and you have to tell them what to do because they basically do not want to be there. Okay.
Yeah.
So he said, you fall into one of two camps. But back to your point of, looking at the young people, um, and how you perceive it all. There are a couple of things, so I come from a very humanistic behavioral approach. You people will eventually, embrace something. Was at U of I think when I went to grad school, they interviewed me, and one of my meetings was a breakfast meeting at like 7 something in the morning, and I realized that it wasn't just, I wonder what she likes to eat for breakfast. But they were observing you. How do you interact with the person waiting? How do you comport yourself, at a table? Are you able to engage in conversation and listen to something that somebody else is talking, about? Do you monopolize conversation? Um, they they were looking at all of that. Now, in terms of some of the background, I have to tell you that I love the fact that I was able to mix psych and education, because for the first 10 years of my life, I worked as a psychologist or a social worker. And the last job I had, it's the one that helped me decide, I think I want to change careers. I had a caseload where
I feel like I've heard this story.
I'm
I
sure,
remember
yeah,
this. So
they were children and kids who had attempted at least once. And recidivism was real big back then. Now we're talking 30 something years ago now, 35 years ago. and my job was to keep recidivism is when they return and do it
Right.
again. And so they said, we need someone to keep them from doing that. So can you imagine the pressure of trying to keep, a caseload of kids alive and keep them from wanting to, harm themselves again? It was a lot of pressure. Thank God, no one, repeated. Um,
Congratulations.
oh, I know, right?
That matters.
Um, but yeah, I came to wonderful education right after that job for 13 months. Very, very interesting. Yeah, you learn a lot. Part of the whole upward bound model is that it mimics the role of a parent. You see, when you're teaching your children, and while I, um, you know, did not have the fortune of being a biological parent, I was a step parent. And the thing is, I remember grabbing the readers on the weekend, the reader being this newspaper in Chicagoland that told you all the fun things that you could do, and particularly free and educational. And I would get those and take those girls um, to those different classes over the weekends, and made sure they were enrolled in dance classes and things of that nature. Um, that was important. Um, you see, the child, what most parents understand, and that's why they hopefully they just kind of smile through it. They'll go, you'll you'll appreciate it later. You might not appreciate it now. It's that mindset, and that hasn't changed over the years.
Yeah.
You might not appreciate it now, but you will when you get older. A little later, you're gonna look back. These little years are gonna fly by so fast, and then you'll start remembering. Wow, my parents did that, or my parents were here for that, or my parents made sure that, even though they couldn't make my, first performance, when I was in the play, they made sure that my auntie came instead. Um, it's that kind of thing where, they don't get it now, and they might even be angry with you, and you ignore it, you take it, you bear the burden of it, because you know that 9 times out of 10 years from now, they will look you up, track you down, find you, and just say, hey, thank you. And I ran saw into him. He got out of the car, but I didn't recognize him right away. And all this kid, excuse me, did when he got out of the car was smile. And I'm looking, I'm like, now who is that? But he just kept smiling. And as he walked towards me, he was like, I love you. And I was like, this is one of my kids. Okay. And it was the cutest thing. Um, but you see, you know for a fact, every now and then you'll meet someone who 10 years after the fact, they're going, oh my God, yes. I don't get that then. I didn't get it then, and I don't get it now. But the whole thing, that's what parenting is all about. You'll meet someone who's a parent. They go, oh, they're a teenager right now. They hate everybody. Everyone's crazy. Our generation, my generation, we said, don't trust anybody over 30. Okay. And it's funny now because one of my friends not long ago said, remember when we used to say, don't trust anybody over 30? Right now, I don't trust anybody under 30.
For real.
But we were notorious for that. Just like they're how old? Okay, they're part of that generation.
So what?
Am doing this podcast largely to figure out if
Oh,
if the way that I'm thinking about life and in the world is productive.
Well, first of all, compliments to you for establishing a platform and a forum where you could try to figure it out and not taking the somewhat pompous view that you have figured it out.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
So,
Where
yes.
I see the past work is, like you said, very parental. It's like you're gonna get it eventually. You're not gonna get it right now. I totally agree. I wonder if we're out of that, like that that if there's another thing that we need to do because the parental piece is taking too long.
If that makes sense.
Right. Well, see, one of the things to remember too about the parental piece is not just the hard nose, you do as I say or what have you, but it's also showing the love. The one thing that made me able to be effective was that the kids always knew that I had their back.
As I've been talking about, like creating like a speakers bureau for you guys, is like maybe calling it proximity.
Okay.
And that, because to me, that is a really broad term for the challenges that are faced in education. And so I learned that moving up to Chicago.
Okay.
Right? Because it became very different when after a program I got 5 kids, I could drop them off in Champaign in 5 minutes and they're home by 9:30. Right? Move up to Chicago, I first have to even consider if I'm going to give a young person a ride home, because that baby might live all the way down 45 minutes away from where I live, and then I got to get back to where I'm
So
going.
that's when the charter bus becomes the thing to do, because you could control everyone meets at a local spot. And that's when the guidance from people in Chicago land, because their concerns are different. Lewis was something like that, because we had people who lived in Romeoville, people who lived in Joliet East, the other side of Joliet, and Lamont. There were like 5 different suburbs that were substantial. You needed a car. Okay, now that's for sure.
But this is what I mean, right? Yeah. So this is the reason why I've come to a feeling that I really want us to reclaim virtual, because I think that virtual created more access to things that people who don't typically have access to things. And because people want to be in person, it actually is creating it's like because people prefer to be more in person because they want to be more exclusive. They don't want stuff to be more. So I think that those things, in addition to the added distractions that now exist, that we now have to make sure that we are counter educating on. So you all could say to us, you'll learn it later. And that would be, okay, cool, we trust you. We are working with a generation of young people, I think, who are saying, well, I shouldn't have to wait until later. I get information in real time now, which means that I want information in real time. So if you're gonna make me dress up for music appreciation every Sunday, right, you're gonna have to tell me why this matters to me now, not later. Because I don't know I don't believe anymore that this life that you are preparing me for is actually gonna happen. And it doesn't for many of those young people, because once they leave your presence, that thing that was motivating them, that thing that was getting them to do the thing that they needed to do, which was you making them, is not there anymore. So then what? How are we making sure that now, given the added resources?
I've been kind of tossing these kinds of thoughts around in my head but not giving them the kind of sophisticated thought that you're giving them. Is that couple things? Are we keeping up with the times?
Mm,
Number one.
mhm.
And number two, I am reminded maybe 6 years ago, I just remember I got in an Uber and this guy was talking to me and he was saying, oh, our company had to change how we were being trained. And I said, really? And I love Uber conversations.
Uh,
And so he was saying that they had to change how they were being trained. He said, because their bosses told them, you cannot just tell the current generation to do something. They have to understand and embrace why they're doing it. And so I thought it was very interesting that, and it was a major company, I'll leave the name
mhm.
unknown, but it was a major company, corporation, and they were saying, we have to train our people differently
Yeah.
because they can't just say to a worker, yeah, that you want to use, multiple colors. Right.
Yeah.
So how
Okay.
would you do upper bound now?
Differently. Um,
Or how would you do it? Like, I mean, maybe it's the same.
Many of the things would be the same, but the buy-in, you see, the
Mm,
buy-in would be different. Um, maybe a little more engagement, but we did a lot of stuff with students.
mhm,
Like the first time we stayed up till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning
mhm,
doing those trip booklets. Remember
mm,
the trip booklets?
mhm, mhm,
Our trip booklets, I would later learn, people paid other people to do stuff like that,
mm,
to plan a trip, spot it out,
mhm,
put things in the booklet, talk about sites that you're going to, have an evaluation form for each school that you went to that the kids could tear out. And then, what did we do with them? Maybe the kids kept those and then we had them do a separate valuation at the end. That's
mm,
what it was. But that's the researcher in me. But um, the thing is, I remember the first time we stayed up till like the day before the trip, we were over at the office running off and making sure that the booklets were okay. I said, they're going to help us put these together. That's when then we got bridge students to come over the day before the trip, and they, first of all, they were younger. They set up their little systems. They got those booklets together, and I'll never forget someone's booklet. We would have people put their name on them instantly because invariably they'd end up on the floor.
mhm.
Somebody, Miss Bates, I can't find my booklet.
So would you do that the same?
I would have them involved first. We
Mm,
spent hours for a number of years putting those booklets together, and I would instantly have them, they would be involved at every level. And what I was going to say was that when we got on the bus, some kid's booklet was on the floor. And one of those kids who had been up, they said, hey, whose booklet is this? And they didn't have their name on it. They were like, it took a lot to put those book. And I said nothing.
mhm,
So give them more involvement, definitely give them more ownership for sure. Once they were like, y'all did this for us the previous trips. Now they're bridge students on their way to college. Maybe for they may have been in the program for 4 years, but they had no idea that that kind of involvement went in just putting a booklet.
So do you think you could get the kids these days?
I work with high school students right now, and overwhelmingly, these kids are good kids. They're good. Um, you've got to figure out their buy-in. Give them responsibility. Give the child the responsibility. Have them assume that leadership. Have them infused in what it is that you're doing. Now, some of it, you might have a kid go, I can take a virtual trip. Why do I have to take a real trip? Well, you remember now, we help sell those colleges and universities because especially the Mississippi weekend, because they were going to that football game.
mhm.
Okay, we didn't have to include that. That's another. I'm a huge baseball and football fan.
I ask these questions because in every career that I have,
Yeah.
I have used those same strategies. You know, I make trip booklets. I speak to you as a student who, the cover of my book is probably going to be a picture that I have of me sitting in an upper bound classroom.
Wow. And thank you for appreciating them. We would give those graduate students, I'm not sure if everyone understood, we would give those graduate students, first of all, a job so that they could stay on campus during the summer and continue working on their research or whatever it was.
Like now that we've established these programs, right?
Right.
We should say to young people, this is your schedule. These are my expectations. Do you want to be in this program? There are kids who are out here who are getting advantages that I think that we need to be more intentional about.
You're correct.
Letting them know. I think the same thing goes for staff. That shield of we're not going to tell people what this really is because we are convinced if we tell them what this really is, they won't want to do it. As opposed to giving them the option. Say, listen, this is what I expect of you. And being okay if they don't want to do it. Oh. So, we're having this conversation about, AI, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm a technology crazy person. Okay. I say it's because my mom is technology. That's what U of I trained her, and I went to U of I, and I believe U of I has been very technologically advanced. I am doing all of this because you used to make us video record on college tour trips. You used to make us, do those scripts, and you used to have theater, classes at Upward Bound, right? These are all things that during that time I didn't want to do, but I have all of these skills because I knew that I was getting something. I didn't know what it was. And even at the time, I don't even know if I knew that I was getting something. I just knew that I think I'm just a learner. And so like for me, I just, anything that now that you're in because you teach right now, right? Yeah. You do that education. Like how does it look different for you now? Do you still find yourself, kind of in the same space and energy that you were?
Similar, very similar. Everything's like a bell-shaped curve.
Okay.
Okay. Few on one end, few on the other end, but most right under the middle.
Yeah.
There are a couple of little darlings that I have at the schools, and I try and encourage them um, along the way. Um, I'm a little concerned with the current generation as it relates to their thoughts about, humanism. This is wrong, this is right.
Say more.
Well, just in terms of um, ethically, how they will respond to the next man. The next person needs food, or the next person, needs this or that. Kind of like, is this my issue? Is this my problem? Should I be concerned about that? Um, in terms of being able to listen, I believe that they can and that they will. Um, the biggest thing though is that I would make sure they're involved. And I get their buy-in. And see, I still believe that if you get the buy-in, okay, that's the whole thing. If you get the buy-in, have them buy into what you're doing.
So how do you get young people now to buy in?
To buy in? Well,
different than you used to get us. I would say that what we bought into, those of us that did, was Trust. I think we trusted you all, that you were, whether we agree with it or not, you were giving us an experience that would change our current circumstances.
Current and future.
Right? For me, it was Upward Bound got me out of the house.
Were you a WIA student?
Yes, exactly. Oh. Yes. It got me out of the house and gave me a summer job.
Workforce Investment Act.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Gave me a summer job. But Upward Bound was like, I had, like, college wasn't, like, it wasn't a future thing.
Oh.
Like, yeah, like, it wasn't, like, no.
But got accepted to the University of Illinois.
Yeah, but, like, I tell the story of, like, I think, like, these are the conversations that I think that you all really should have and hear. Like, I understand now and understood when I became a professional how you all were, like, you all had to, like, have just this extraordinary understanding and belief that, like, again, like, when you were telling us that we could be whatever we wanted to be, you believed that.
You're correct about that.
You believed that. Yes. Because you had done it. Yeah. Right? And so you all were like, okay, you seen me do it. I'm here. I'm ready. And so that's why we trusted you. That is not the generation that I became as a professional. And it's definitely not our current education landscape professional now. And so I think what I'm trying to understand is, like, how do we use all of that information?
How do we bake the cake?
How do we bake the cake? Actually, so I would say you all were mixing it. Yeah. You all were putting in all the ingredients, and we said, okay, we'll take it, and now we'll put it in the pan and we'll cook it, right?
Put the icing on it.
We'll cook it. This generation is putting the icing on it.
Before.
This generation is putting the icing on it. That's what my generation did. We literally were the cake baking in the oven of the work and the ingredients that y'all put in. Okay. We were that. And so then our generation came out and said, okay, well, we'll just do that and just make it better and more. We'll do it now with technology. So what I mean by that is that rarely was I putting my trip book together the night before a trip.
It was done a week before?
It was done months before.
Okay.
Because this is a trip we're taking every year.
Well, exactly.
Why is it that we doing this the night before? This is ridiculous.
You could almost prepare the trip book for the next year, the previous year. I remember when we got to that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like this generation is now saying, okay, now this cake been baking.
Yeah.
We need some icing. Right? Okay. So to your point, so when I began to work at the Black Cultural Center and I began to, and even I think now I understand and was able to take what we didn't appreciate back then, which was the trip booklet. Now, the reason why people pay for that, or maybe they paid for it then, is because these kids and these families have to have that before they go anywhere. Because they're not going nowhere off of get on this bus and trust what's going to happen when you get there. Because I think we didn't get the trip booklet until we got on the bus.
You did not.
No, child. Well, you got to give them kids the itinerary before now. Do you see what I'm saying?
We would send the itinerary home.
Yeah. So, but all of that, like, they need all, like, because that is what it requires for buy-in. Mm-hmm. Right? So, like, I think what we're talking about is it costs more to buy in, maybe, is what to where for you all, the cost for us to buy in was simple trust.
some
Yeah.
additional factors. I think we never want to lose something like trust as one of our girders, one of the things to hold our foundation in place. We never want to lose that. We want to always keep that as a factor and try to help them understand the importance of, establishing certain kinds of um, characteristics, personal
Mm.
characteristics, so that when you go out uh, and when you seek to establish your personal brand,
Mm.
you will know I'm a person who you can rely on. I'm a person who you can trust. In fact, I do these little classes for students in Chicago, in Chicagoland, actually in the Chatham area. And the last thing I was doing Saturday classes where I teach them life skills. Of course, I taught them, the 8 habits of highly effective people.
Mhm.
Um, one of the two of the other things were financial literacy, time management, but the last one was selling yourself, and it was all about the elevator speech,
Mhm.
and why it was important to be able to do that, why you needed to know how to quickly,
Yeah.
elucidate and verbalize and share your main points. You need to do it in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, then you're working on your esteem and you have a good sense of who you are, how you will then sell yourself, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But I was telling them, decide what you want to be as part of your branding. When
Mm.
someone sees Namika, there should be, like 5 quick thoughts, integrity, honesty, hardworking, resilience. Okay,
Mhm.
you want them to see you
Yeah.
and think of, these 5 things. So they struggled a little bit with it, but they worked on it.
Mhm.
Okay, they worked on their little elevator speeches, and
Mhm.
hopefully I got across to at least half of the room of about 18.
I always admired you all's ability to just continue to I would say want more for us than we wanted for ourselves.
So once again, it's back. That's that parental
Yeah.
thing. How many parents, they're out there just working so hard. I
Mm.
mean, you've seen it. You've
Yeah,
worked with
for
many
sure.
a parents. It's that whole parental mindset
Yeah.
where you love them,
Mhm.
and they know that you love them.
Mhm.
Um, you know, um, they're expecting you to go the
Yeah.
extra mile. I'm contending that much of what we do in terms of the basics shall remain the same. We might have to develop some different strategies.
Okay.
And that's the next conversation
Okay.
because we want to make sure that we're still effective.
Mm.
And let's face it, our kids are, inundated with, you know, um, different stimuli
Yeah.
from the environment.
Yeah.
I wanted
That.
to talk a little bit about the T-shirt that I was
Yeah.
wearing because every year we had to come up with a theme, and
Mhm.
that was the theme for the summer,
Mhm.
everything we did.
Mhm.
And this one is allowing, is it
Uh-huh.
allowing
Allowing
gratitude
gratitude
to
to
determine
determine your
your,
attitude.
is it attitude or
Mhm.
altitude?
Attitude.
Attitude,
Mhm.
yes. And
And
so,
the top reads,
ele-
activate the power of
of graciousness.
graciousness. Yes.
So we were,
2012.
subtly trying to teach uh, certain values. They were in there, being gracious. I saw something in your room that had something on it about kindness. Um, it's all, just like here, uh, aging
Grace.
gracefully is being able to be grateful. And I talk about the fact that if you wake up every day and you say, you know what, let me be grateful for what was, I will tell people who have lost people to turn grief into gratitude. Thank you, God, for allowing me to have had a wonderful brother or sister or parent for X amount of years. Some people are not that lucky. Some people's parents are robbed from them at an early age. Some people don't have nice parents. Okay? So when you have a good parent, a good brother, or whatever, turn that grief into gratitude and watch how it allows you to continue, getting through those days. Um, I'll end with this. When I first came to Illinois in '93, not first, I first came there as an undergrad in the 70s.
You came back.
Yes,
in
when I first
93.
returned, yes, 20 years later. Um, I remember these students. I remember the gal who was the secretary at the time. She said, "There's some students that want to see you," and I was like, "They do?" And I said, "By all means, you know, do we know what they want?" They were college students. We were in the business of hiring college students, but we were in the business of cultivating high school students. And they introduced themselves. They came into the office because you keep an open door policy for students. And they said, "You don't know us, but we heard about you." And I said, "Okay." They said, we heard that you're a real in the now kind of person. Now this is the '90s, and I was like, in my head, is there any other way to be?
So I still claim you as my first black female PhD that I met, which is why I wore my road to PhD. I remember these from my graduation. I met. The reason why I wanted to interview you particularly is because of just what this conversation has been. Number one, you are definitely my director and supervisor who I had the most fun with working. And you taught me that this work is supposed to be fun.
That's right. We would laugh every day.
All the time about everything.
Yeah.
About like we were able to see the challenges in the work and laugh about them, and you helped me with that.
I have to throw this in. I'll never forget being called into the office and the person above me saying, "You all need to tone it down. The other people in the office feel like they're left out because you guys laugh all the time." I said, "You're kidding me, right?" Because we would laugh.
I still get in trouble for joying in my office. That's what I call it. I do, and I picked that up from you. I picked up, that our offices, as you bring up the open door, right? Like you're the person who taught me how to plan a trip. You're the person who taught me how to prepare for audits. You're the person who taught me how to video record. You're the person who taught me that you should video record. The first thing I bought when I became the assistant director at the Black House, I asked Mr. Banks for permission. Gotta buy a video recorder. Memories are really important, and it's evidence.
That's what researchers do.
Evidence. Exactly. Yeah. Evidence. Right. And so I think about it less of memories as I do as evidence.
That's true.
Right. I think that this is evidence of the good work, and you need it to be recorded, and it's evidence of so I started taking pictures of everything. Good, protests on campus, and when Barack Obama was right, because this was evidence that Black students were here.
Yeah. My hat's off to you, Dr. Bates, for posing the question. I have this thing about questions that people pose. They tell you a lot about the person. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the questions that you're posing are very in the now. Okay, and they're
Is there any other way to
with
be?
me. I know. Okay, but they're very relevant, and they're making us stop and think, and not just get on the uh, what is the moving escalator. See, too many of us are on moving escalators. Okay,
Yes.
it's going forward. I'm going forward. I'm good standing here. Okay, it's taking me from this point to the next, and I'm good. That's not you. Kudos.
Well, let me end by thanking Dr. Sandra Joy Kato. Thank you
Absolutely.
for joining Trio. This is what it looks like to be Trio
Trio
with Dr.
lives.
Bates
Okay.
and Dr. Sandra Joy Kato.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.